لا من يجمع المال ويلقى فيه أهوالا سنون العمر ماضية وكأس الموت قد سالا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Dear beloved viewers, I welcome you to this program with an Islamic greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In our previous program, we talked about wealth generation in Islam, and we concluded with methods which are permissible in Islam for a Muslim to use to acquire wealth, and also mentioned some of the methods which are prohibited for a Muslim to use to acquire wealth. Just to highlight few examples which we mentioned on the permissible methods is, for example, we mentioned trade. Doing a trade, selling and buying products which are allowed in Islam is permissible. Also, manufacturing, farming, fishing, mining, and consulting on matters which are allowed in Sharia is also permissible. We also mentioned employment. We also mentioned if you receive a zakah, is a lawful income to you, among others. We also mentioned the prohibited means, ways which are not allowed for Muslims to engage in acquisition or in earning income. One is riba. We mentioned that Allah has prohibited interest. So a Muslim cannot invest in institutions which are either paying or charging riba, either be a bank or be a SACCO or the like of those nature, the like of those kind of institutions, financial institutions which are operating on the interest-based mechanism. A Muslim should not engage on that. Another method which is prohibited is bribery, giving and receiving bribery. And of course, we highlighted a lot of scholars' discussion around bribery. Again, theft is also not allowed. Among others, I would like to add here and emphasize to add one prohibited means, and also emphasize on ethical practices. On additional point on what is prohibited, or a method which is prohibited to acquire wealth or an income or livelihood, is of course prostitution. You cannot, as a Muslim, engage with zina as a method of acquiring income. So that one, we know in some of our countries and in some of our communities, in some of the localities, we see that there are ladies and gentlemen who are engaging in prostitution of one form or the other. So prostitution is also definitely one of the means that is not allowed in Islam for a Muslim to engage in for purpose of acquiring income. Another point with regards to prohibited practices in acquisition of wealth is reducing measures, mutaffifin. There is a complete chapter in the Holy Quran prohibiting reducing measurements or weights when it comes to buying and selling and things of that. So this practice of reducing measures is prohibited as well. So you might be dealing with a permissible commodity, say you are selling maize, but you have done a trick with your scale in such a manner that it doesn't measure properly so that you can benefit from that. That is also prohibited. What you are earning there, though you are selling maize which is halal, but since you are using a measure which has been tricked and it is manipulative, then definitely that sale becomes problematic and becomes prohibited one. Another one is trading on Friday prayer. When the second adhan has been called and you are buying or you are selling, again, scholars are saying that that transaction is prohibited. Whatever income you get during the second adhan for buying or selling, that income is not permissible. And also for the person who is buying something during the second, after the second adhan, then whatever he has acquired is not lawful to him. Okay, so this is very serious. So you can be buying something which is permissible, but again, the time that you are buying it, if it is after a second adhan on Friday, then whatever sale you are making or transaction that you are doing, that becomes a haram transaction, and Allah knows best. To conclude on wealth generation, in wealth management field is a professional field. They categorize lawful methods of acquiring wealth into three, or basically mostly classified into two, but others goes to classify up to three. Number one of the method that is mentioned is an active method, which is an example of an active method of generating income is employment. When you are employed, so you are actively delivering a work or a service, and you get an income out of that. Another active method of income generation is self-employment. If you have established a business, or if you are a salesperson doing sales for other businesses, like an agent, and get your commission, then that is also an active method of income generation. On the passive method of income generation is the like of having an asset like a house, and you are leasing that house for a rental. Okay, since you are not actively engaged, and that's why they use the word passive here, is you are not actively engaged. You have an asset that you are leasing, and people pay you rental, okay, for using that asset. So rental income becomes also halal for that matter. Or you have invested buying shares, for example, of a lawful business. You are part of the shareholders, okay, of a certain particular business, and you are not directly engaged with the day-to-day running of that particular business. You become a passive investor. You have contributed capital. Some other people are managing it, running the firm, running the company, and if there are any profits are shared and you get your dividend, or if there are losses, you also bear that loss. Now, for a Muslim to invest in the likes of shares, especially those listed at, say, Nairobi Stock Exchange or Dar es Salaam Stock Exchange and other stock exchanges, a Muslim has to understand which business he is going to invest in terms of, is it permissible business or non-permissible business? And there are other criteria which scholars have established for a Muslim to observe if he wants to invest in public listed companies. We won't go much into details on that aspect, but you can always consult knowledgeable people in the field of finance and Islamic finance, and they can be able to advise you properly which shares you can buy as a Muslim and which one you cannot. So, to conclude with wealth generation subject, which we discussed since the past episode or since other program of the past, I would like to emphasize the point of being very cautious with your method of generating income. Very cautious. As a Muslim, you should be very cautious of how you are earning your income, because as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا يدخل الجنة لحم نبتت من سحت, that any flesh, any part of the body that has grown out of impermissible income or livelihood, that part of the body deserves to go to hell and it will never go to Jannah. So a Muslim has to be very careful on that. And even if you are doing a permissible business, bear in mind, you will be tested in the way you practice, in the way you run your business. As we learn in a famous story in the Holy Quran, this story is available in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 163. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to bring to our attention that He will test us. He will test us even on things that we consider a profession which is generally allowed profession. So these people were in a fishing profession. They were people near the sea. وَاسْأَلْهُمْ عَنِ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ حَاضِرَةَ الْبَحْرِ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ask them about the people or the community that was living near the sea. And their profession was fishing. Now these people, as commentators of the Quran explain to us, they were Jews, because as you can see, the verse continued to talk about Sabbath, okay, a Sabti, that they were prohibited to do fishing or to do any work during the Sabbath on Saturday. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to test these people. On the day of Sabbath, which is prohibited for them to work, Allah brought fish openly. Openly, they could see fish. They could see an opportunity to get fish easily. But it is on Sabbath, a day which they were prohibited to fish. But other days, apart from Sabbath, those fish cannot be seen openly. They have to go far away or wait for too long to be able to get the fish. Now you see here, Allah is testing them in the fishing profession. So you might be in a lawful profession, in a lawful business, but mind you, Allah can still can still test you with certain items within that particular profession, as He tested these people with respect to Sabbath. Is a day prohibited to fish, He brought fish openly to them. Now we should be cautious, and we should be able to manage our temptation for wealth. Otherwise, as this story goes, most of these people couldn't manage their temptations. Some of them went to fish on that day which was prohibited. Others didn't go to fish, which were very few. Now, when these guys, these people, good people who didn't go to fish, took an opportunity to advise, to give nasaha to these guys who were going to fish, these other guys who were fishing on Sabbath couldn't pay attention to the warnings, to the nasiha. They neglected everything. And then Allah came and punished these guys and turned them into apes, monkeys. So we should be very careful, dear brothers and sisters, our beloved viewers, that even if you are in a halal profession, please observe ethical principles of doing that business, and always be mindful of what you say to your customer, and be mindful of at what time you are doing your transaction. Is it Friday after second adhan? Okay, you should be very cautious when you do your transaction, because Allah can test you anytime with anything. So it's very important for a Muslim to bear in mind this story and keep it deep in your memory, so that you know that you can be tested anywhere. And as you can see in this story, unlawful methods can be very tempting. they always promise success, quick achievement, quick returns, huge profits. This is the nature, or this is what we learn in this story. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed these people abundant fish openly. You see, so as a Muslim, you should be very cautious with these high return schemes which are not very clear. Okay, somebody tells you there is this business and that business, when you invest you get this 100 or multiple rate of returns on your investment. Okay, be very careful and be able to ask important questions, and if you can't, seek an advice, consult people of knowledge who will be able to guide you. Now, dear viewers, we will take a short break from what we have mentioned, and inshallah start our next topic, which is on wealthy spending. Please don't go away.
إلى من يجمع المال ويلقى فيه أهوالا سنون العمر ماضية وكأس الموت قد سال